A stone's throw from Yosemite National Park and beneath the peak of Half Dome sits an apple orchard and cidery that brings authentic Sierra flavors to tables this holiday season.
We are standing in our cider-specific apple orchard. I say cider-specific because most of the apples that we grow are pretty terrible to eat. These apples are incredibly tannic, often very bitter, very, very acidic. And you want a little bit of acid and tartness in an eating apple, but some of these will really pucker your lips, for sure.
David Bailey and his wife Dana Teal began farming their 4-acre property at the height of the pandemic and are now serving up cider year-round, including special blends during the holidays, a process that begins once the fall harvest commences.
Pressing days are some of our most exciting and nerve-wracking days here at Sierra Cider. The process goes, first we're gonna pull all of the apples that we're gonna press out of cold storage. Some of them have been cooling for a few weeks, some of them have been picked, within the last few days. But we're gonna pull out, depending on what tank we're filling, around 4,000 to 8,000 pounds of apples. So all of those apples, before they go into our mill and our press, are gonna get sorted out. We're gonna make sure that, spray them down, make sure that there aren't any bugs or leaves or dirt on them or anything like that. We're gonna pick out the ones that may have started to rot or have beak marks on them from birds. Our birds love to eat our apples here, much to my chagrin. So once they get all sorted, they get dropped into the cold water bath of our apple mill. They're gonna get a nice little soak there. That's gonna be kind of our last step in quality control. I'm basically standing there making sure that, every apple that's going up the elevator is of a really nice quality. They're gonna kind of travel up this elevator that's kind of basically a big conveyor belt, more of an escalator than an elevator, at which point they drop into our mill. And our apple mill is basically almost like a gigantic, terrifying cheese grater. They kind of come out like sliced cheese that you would put on your pizza, and they drop into our belt press. All those apple guts are gonna get sucked into our belt press. And basically they're going to be compressed between a giant rotating steel drum and a porous belt that's tensioned by air pressure. So basically imagine putting some apple guts between your waist and your belt and tightening your belt until it starts squeezing out the juice. So it's gonna go through a few rounds of that between a few different drums, and it's gonna come out a spout at the bottom, gets collected in sort of our custom-made juice collector. One little round of filtering there to make sure that no seeds got through or anything. And then it gets pumped into one of our 2,000-liter stainless steel tanks. It's gonna be that really dark brown, cloudy, sweet cider that you might get. So once we've got those tanks full, we're gonna throw in some champagne yeast, which is why we call it campfire champagne. And then we kind of let the yeast do all the hard work for us. It eats up all those sugars, converting them into ethanol and carbon dioxide, basically a carbonated alcoholic beverage. And then once it's done fully fermenting, we just let it age in the tank. Some of those boozier notes are gonna start to mellow out, it gets nice and smooth. Then we start working on all of our blends, combining different apple flavors to make something, really unique for each of our blends. Fall also comes with the return of our Chunky Sweater blend. And as some people have asked, no, it is not a chunky cider. It's very smooth and crisp, the way that many of our other ciders are. But Chunky Sweater, we call it Chunky Sweater because it kind of gives you those really cozy, fall Christmassy vibes, and we like to think that it tastes like wearing a chunky sweater. So Chunky Sweater is made with a lot of those really classic holiday mulling spices like cinnamon, orange peel, star anise, clove.
And once the weather cools down enough to actually don a chunky sweater, that's when they bring out the holiday blends.
Creating and sharing with people and sharing that part of myself that's created something with people is so meaningful, I think, to both of us. So when I get to show up at a party with 4 blends of cider and sometimes with sail, which is hard cider, brandy, and mulling spices, it's this very personal gift I get to bring to the family table.